Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invite along today and the opportunity to chat to you all. We're really looking forward to the discussion later. My name's Oli. I'm one of the founders of Outfield. My co-founder Jim is on the call as well. If you know anything about Outfield, it is that we use drone systems to survey orchards to generate this sort of data. We're talking about precision farming data for growers. This is an overview of our system. We use a drone system to fly over an orchard. We gather imagery across the orchard. We process that in the cloud and turn that into map data, yield data, all sorts of outputs for growers. And then we can turn that into precision application and intervention decisions as well. I guess the key point there is when we say we're using drones, we use an off-the-shelf drone system. So we have 4 different models we support at the moment. We're adding more models all the time. But these are off-the-shelf photography drones available from sort of any reputable online electronics retailer. Get yourself one of these drones, and you can be up and flying in a matter of days. Really, it's really quick to get started. All the flight planning is provided by Outfield. All of the drone control, the waypoints, GPS positions, all of that is handled. So the drone flying the drone operation bit is completely automated, but it means that growers can do it on the farm. These are the sorts of insights that we've been providing. This is where the system's been up till now. We've got a few updates. I'll talk a bit about that at the end. But this is the sort of thing that we've been providing to growers: heat maps and sort of overviews of blossom variability, fruit loading variability, yield estimates across the orchard. There's a whole bunch of metrics that sit behind this as well. But this is a very top level what the growers are able to generate on demand using the Outfield system. Each one of these is a single survey with the drone. It's a single flight. And for an orchard, it can be as quick as 5 minutes, 10 minutes for a survey. It can take a lot longer if you want higher resolution, more information about individual trees and a sort of a higher number of data points across the field. All of that is incredibly flexible because it's just changing the flight plans, the automated flight plan that the drone is carrying out. Why do we use drones? The main benefit of using drones, the main benefit of deploying a drone to go and get this data, as we see it, is that speed. It's the speed of being able to operate across a block, whether it's an orchard or a apple orchard, pear orchard, some other fruit type, being able to quickly get across that block and generate a view on it for the growers, which means we can get data back to them within 24 hours, usually a lot quicker. Scalable, flexible. The idea is that this system will deploy to any farm anywhere in the world. We've got a grower in Italy using it, and his blocks are typically half a hectare in size. He's got a lot of them, but they're tiny, tiny little blocks. We're working with some really big growers in Washington and in Michigan with some really, really large blocks. Here in the UK, you will never find an orchard that's square. They're all higgledy-piggledy. So this system will scale to any kind of orchard anywhere in the world. And of course, low cost of setup. It's just the cost of getting a drone off the shelf. They're quick to replace. You can scale up to get 2, 3, 4, and deploy these across your farm as well. This is the sort of imagery we get from the drone. So we typically fly looking down an oblique angle into the orchard. So I've chosen 2 images here. One is of fruit at the top, and the one at the bottom is an orchard in full blossom, in full bloom. So we're identifying trees through the orchard. We are finding fruit. We're finding blossom. We're able to generate those metrics on a per tree basis. This is the kind of imagery we get. It's very high resolution. We get really great context, top and bottom of the tree. You'll notice this also allows us to start saying things about tree height, start saying things about canopy, about tree architecture, tying into some of the stuff that we've been talking about today. Everything is fed back to the growers through the Outfield web app, makes it a one-stop shop for growers. So you come onto the web app to onboard your farm, to put all your orchards and your details in, generate flight plans, upload imagery, and see all your results as well. So everything happens through the web app. We're adding new features to that all the time. Once we've generated this data, so blossom metrics, tree size metrics, things like that, we do integrate at an early stage. We do integrate with a few different spray operators and application operators. Red Ants, a company out of South Africa, but I know they're doing a lot in Washington. They've got fantastic spray systems and a really great low-cost fertilizer application system. We've done some work with them, and Munkoff as well. We've got the Munkoff, the Verimass sprayer, which I think we've seen a video of that already. So we can integrate into the Munkoff sprayer system as well. It's a very easy integration. So putting our units into that. There is another spray system that we integrate with, which not commercially available at the moment. This is a research project we've been doing here in the UK. It's called the PODS sprayer. We've got one unit operating at the moment, but the plan is to start producing more units in the next year. We've got some more grant funding for that. That's a single tower sprayer with PWM nozzles on the sprayer. And what that means is every nozzle can be controlled independently, and not just on off, they can be controlled at different levels, which is really interesting for us. It means that you know, sort of the richness of data that you can generate, the richness of data, the richness of application you can do on the tree is incredible. You can do different zones at different bands up and down the height of the tree. You can do different levels of chemical application for those different bands. It's all RTK integrated, so every tree is getting an individual application. I know with the Munkoff sprayer, sometimes the speed of actuation down the row can be a little bit of an issue. But with the pod sprayer, because it's PWM, sort of response time is in the fractions of a second, so you can very accurately hit individual trees. And so the challenge there is just generating the richness of data to feed into that. So there's some really interesting things going on. That system is a few years away from commercial production, but happy to talk about that if that's of interest to anyone, if you want to know more about that project. I've got a few case studies. These are case studies we were talking about last season. We're currently updating these with more case studies from this year. We did a fantastic trial with Riveridge in 2022, carried that on in last year as well. Riveridge, big grower in Michigan. We had some really fantastic yield results for them on their Honeycrisp. This is a single block, obviously, but the result here was really fantastic. That's a super spindle, very high density Honeycrisp orchard, and they were really happy with that. We did a blossom survey on this one as well, which they were really interested to see because blossom management in Honeycrisp, big problem, obviously. And then out in South Africa, this is a case study we did on fertilizer application. So looking at tree size measurement and fruit loading measurement and processing that data to generate a fertilizer application map. The farmer was able to reduce the amount of fertilizer by 50%. And with that, of course, the amount of labor and the amount of fuel used was reduced as well, but fertilizer was the big cost. South Africa has seen, you know, with the war in Russia, the war in Ukraine, South Africa has seen a huge increase in fertilizer costs. And so this was a really hot topic for them. So they were really happy with those results. We've now seen satellite imagery from the farm 1 year later, and you can see from the NDVI scans of the orchard, the homogeneity of the orchard, the homogeneity of the canopy is incredible. It's gone from being this sort of, a lot of variation across the block to an incredibly homogeneous, everything looking the same, really homogeneous block. So the grower was really happy about that. So as a very quick summary then, the Outfield system, the data points the Outfield system spits out at the moment for growers, on demand, using a drone, fly it over the field whenever you want to, process it all through our cloud-based system. We'll produce yield estimates for you, fruit counting maps, blossom variability maps, that's your blossom loading across the orchard, and also maps of tree crown size, so looking at tree size top down. Systems we've got in trials at the moment, and that's sort of, coming to growers in the next season will be fruit sizing. We've been carrying out a really interesting project over the last year and a half, estimating fruit sizes from the drone imagery. So this is not just locating fruit, not just counting fruit on the tree, but also estimating the size of those fruit as well. So it's a fruit count and it's a fruit size breakdown from that single drone survey. Georeferencing every single tree, that's combining RTK level precision from the drones, which is all, we've got drones now off the shelf, which include that capability, including that RTK precision into all levels, all layers of Outfield's processing, which means that we can start, processing all this data on individual tree level, reporting it back, generating maps on that individual tree level. We've got a fantastic method for doing a single scan over an orchard and georeferencing all those trees in about 10, 20 minutes, depending on the size of your block. Tree canopy sizing, as I was saying, that tree architecture, looking at that side view, using that for tree size, sidewall area, tree volume, leaf area, however you want to sort of, it's not quite tree volume, it's not quite leaf area, but there's a lot of different metrics you can generate there, some really interesting stuff. And all of that we're using in our a couple of our innovation research projects we've got on at the moment, and precision blossom thinning. So tying up those blossom maps we've got, tying up that precision application, and just bringing that to growers all in that one convenient point. And then further down the line, we're looking at more precision applications, so not just blossom thinning, but growth regulators, fertilizers, all sorts of chemical applications that you're thinking about through the year. It's all about putting that resource down where it needs to be, not putting it down where you don't need it. So you're reducing that environmental impact, reducing the hit to your bottom line, but you're ultimately getting a much more homogeneous block, and you're seeing that benefit. Ingesting a lot more contextual data from around the orchard, so integrating things like weather data and other sources of data, soil maps, things like that, integrating that into our models. And DIAB, drones in a box. This is the idea of putting a drone in a box, drone in a hive at the edge of the orchard or in the middle of your farm unit, and taking that system, which at the moment is mostly automated, you've just got to stand there and watch it, taking it to being fully automated. So this is drone surveys on demand. The box opens up, sends that drone out into the field. Those systems are available commercially now. It's we're sort of waiting for regulations here in Europe, in the UK, in America. We're waiting for those regulations to catch up. So that's going to move at the speed of regulation. So who knows how fast that will be, but we're doing some really interesting trials on that this year. So that's the sort of data outputs that Outfield is able to provide to growers. That's it. Thank you very much.